Modern man is dying for an adventure, brother. Dying for some sort of an adventure. And I know this because I was dying for an adventure for years. And it wasn't until my life just felt so bad. I felt so bad about where I was at and the things that were going on in my life that I had no other option but to change. And the truth is, like for most people, they're just stuck in the middle where it's not that bad, but it's also they know that it could be better. And the truth is, it's hard for people nowadays to make change because for them, they see it as they have to let go of something good to risk potentially having something great. And although it always makes sense to let go of something good if it's guaranteed to have something great, like we always have this our ego trying to keep us stuck where we are because it's a safer option than letting go of what you currently have to maybe not getting what you think is great. So you see this in everything. But the most obvious case of this is obviously like watching porn or having casual sex and in relationships. I mean, for me, I used to watch porn a lot. I used to see casual sex a lot because I was looking to those things as a safer option than, risking getting rejected or going through heartbreak because I had been through that before, right? I had some things that happened to me earlier in my life that affected my relationships, how I kind of carried myself and interacted with women, right? And that translated to every other area of my life as well, where I was never fully present. I was never fully grounded. I was never fully expressing myself the way that I should have been because my subconscious mind identified that as risky, that I could, by being vulnerable, could hurt me. It could get my heart broken. So I became so much more standoffish, or I became so much more reserved, introverted, not really wanting to express myself a whole lot. And that is the epidemic that we see now with so many guys, is that lust and porn are so rampant that it's easy, right? The nut is guaranteed, right? And when it comes to lust and casual sex, I mean, for me, I was a guy who like I didn't really have problems getting laid, but my problem was committing to a relationship because I wasn't fully secure in myself. I had some things that happened in my past that had affected my relationship with how I interacted with women. And I looked towards, just casual sex as a safer option than getting vulnerable in a real relationship with somebody. And it always felt like I was chasing, right? And I feel like a lot of guys have this same thing either in relationships or in business, financially, where they have this strategy mindset where they think that, hey, if I do X, Y, Z, if I hustle harder and grind harder and chase these things more, then I'll get more of it. But the truth is, the more that you chase these things, the more that they start running from you, right? And you might get some success, right? You might get some dates, you might have some sex, but deep down you're looking for more than that. And when you're putting out that energy, that lustful energy, you're only going to attract women who want men to lust over them, right? So a lot of guys, myself included, I used to say that, hey, I wanted to have a girlfriend, a wife, kids, like a loyal partner, but my actions were contradictory to that. So I wasn't aligned. My thoughts, behaviors, and habits were not aligned with the type of person who would attract that. You attract what you are. Your internal state dictates your external reality. You attract what you are. You attract who you are. into your life. And it doesn't just apply to relationships. This is also business, financially. You attract the energy, the frequency that you emit to the world. And just, and financially too as well. I had quit my 9 to 5 job 3 years ago, got into online business, made a lot of money, made way more money than I'd ever made in my life, and I squandered it all away because I wasn't aligned fully with who I was. So I eventually self-sabotaged and lost it all because I wasn't able to hold on to it. I could attract it, but the more that I attract, the more I felt like I needed to chase more instead of attracting it into my life. And it always felt like a chase, and it was exhausting. And that translated into my relationships as well, where I said that, hey, I want to have a nice girlfriend and a wife, but I was always in this chase mode, right? Lusting, because lust isn't just about sex. Lust isn't about porn or sleeping around. Lust can be any material thing, right? Lust is really just the ultimate state of lack, where you feel like you need something external to change your internal state, right? And it comes off as neediness or needing something from somebody else. And naturally, that state of lack of desire around other people, and especially even money, is very repulsive, where the more that you try and grab it, the more it wants to start running from you. So you have to let go of that desire. And naturally, when you let go, when you surrender your desire, is when it can actually make room for it to come into your life. And that's what gratitude is. Surrendering your desire is letting go of your ego, letting go of control, surrendering your grip over every little thing that's going on. And magically, you have a lot more control. Because honestly, when you're trying to control every little thing and strategize every little thing, it's like trying to hold back a river with your hands. You know, you can really only redirect it. And so that's what I didn't really realize for years. It took me so long to figure this out, and especially with women. And now I have so much more control. It's night and day. And it's translated not into just women, but also financially, in relationships with other people, and just life overall. When I let go of my control over every little thing, magically, I have way more control. It's crazy how that works. Because all life really is just a sequence of your thoughts, right? Because your thoughts create your actions create your behaviors create your reality. So the more emotionally and the more emotionally aware and emotionally controlled that you can become, the more that you can actually change those inputs and ultimately change how you interact with the world, and ultimately what you bring into your life. So it's seriously that simple. And it took me so long to figure that out. But nowadays, our world is just so controlled by lust. It's so controlled by these darker forces that it gets a lot of guys in a stranglehold, where it's so easy to get caught in these cycles. And especially if they feel like they have no other sort of purpose, if they're not working on anything fulfilling, if they don't have any real drive or masculine force in their life to put that energy into, it's very easy to fall into those bad habits. Because, to be quite honest with you, the only real way to cope with just how gay society is through vices. You need to have some sort of vices to honestly balance just how fucking retarded and gay everything is. It's just the truth. But the truth is, you have to learn how to transmute those negative energies, those negative emotions, those vices into greater things, right? Because anybody who's ever done anything great, I mean, you look at guys like Leonardo da Vinci, Nikola Tesla, Sigmund Freud, these guys all had extremely addictive personalities, right? They had extremely addictive personalities. And the reason why they were even able to do anything remotely great was because they had this surplus of creative energy built up within them that they channeled into their passions, right? Into their soul's calling. Because they had complete awareness over what they wanted, and they channeled that creative energy, that creative life force into their soul's work, into their soul's purpose. And that's why, your sexual energy, which is your creative energy, is the most important part of being a man. And most guys nowadays who would be like Nikola Tesla, Leonardo da Vinci, those guys are just being wasted away on things like, porn, vaping, scrolling, junk food. Even guys who, are somewhat successful, they're still not able to actually follow their soul's calling, right? And like guys who even get a lot of casual sex, they're still wasting away that creative life force on things that drain them, right? Because even casual sex alone is vampiric in nature. There's two types of sex, right? There's lustful sex that drains you, because when a man is lusting over a woman, and usually that woman wants to be lusted over, right? So when two people have sex in a lustful encounter, they both drain each other's souls, right? So it's vampiric. But when two people who absolutely love each other have sex, that's really the most spiritually enhancing practice that you can have together, right? And that can help both of them, right? So there's two types of sex there. But when it comes to, channeling your sexual energy, this built up sexual energy into, things that build you up instead of drain you, right? So you look at guys like Leonardo da Vinci, right? His inventions and things, you can put it into art, into business, into whatever craft that you feel like your soul's calling is being pulled into. That is your life force. That is your creative life force. And instead of wasting that away, use that as your superpower, right? But most guys don't have the emotional awareness and the emotional control to be able to channel that and transmute that energy into higher levels of awareness and integration, right? So that's really what the start of integrating the anima is becoming more emotionally aware and controlled, so that you can start to integrate your creative side of you. Because as a man, we have these two sides of our soul, right? We have the masculine side, the strategy, discipline, willpower, analytical, logical mindset, right? Then we have the feminine side, where many guys are very deficient in, right? Where we have our like creativity, intuition, ultimately our connection to God is in this side. And it gets really cut off from us when we're kids, right? Because like we go to school, we get taught to think a certain way. We get told, hey, you have to be a man. You can't be too emotional. You can't show your emotions. And so we cut off that side of us, right? We become very thinking mindset. We overthink everything. And the more that we think about everything, the less that we feel. And really, the more we think, the more retarded we become, because we're not being smart, we're just thinking too much. So we think that we're being smart by thinking, by strategizing, by being logical. But in reality, that's just our ego trying to take control, because ultimately our heart knows the way for everything in our life. Our heart truly knows what we want, but our brain just gets in the way because it sees our heart's desires sometimes as dangerous, because it's not certain, right? It's unfamiliar. So naturally your ego wants to keep you safe from danger, like in past, like in our ancestors' lives, if they were in a tribe and they like wandered off from the tribe or whatever, they'd get like mauled by a saber-toothed tiger or something, right? But truth is, we're not in those times anymore, so we haven't adapted our lizard brain, right? But we still have that within us. So the only way that you can truly break through that is to first gain the emotional uh, awareness over that's happening, and to change your mindset around it. Recognize when it's happening, and then transmute that same energy in emotion into whatever could actually build you up into higher levels of consciousness. And that's really what anima integration is taking the feminine side of your soul to become fully masculine. Because the truth is, like, all the most masculine men in the world are also the most feminine. Jesus Christ was the most integrated man of all time. If you truly study his teachings, even looking at the Gospel of Thomas, make the two into one, the inside like the outside. Turn the male and the female into a single one, then you will enter into the kingdom of heaven. This is what Jesus Christ was. He was the ultimate embodiment of the perfect man, both masculine and feminine sides of his psyche in a single one. And the feminine side doesn't necessarily mean at all being like a woman. It doesn't mean a woman like. That's just the energy behind it. The creativity, the intuition, the connection to God. These are all very feminine in nature, feeling, emotion. And without that, guys naturally overthink. And if you're somebody who's ever been in sales, guys tend to be very indecisive because they think too much. They overthink their heart's desire, what they know to be true, and they try and look for a very logical reason to not make a change instead of just doing what they already know is true. And you see this with everything. So I think a lot of men, now we're going through a very interesting change in society where a lot of guys are getting super fed up with how gay everything is, and these new trends with looks maxing and all this red pill BS. And people are just waking up, and men are just getting sick and tired of all the BS. And I think there's going to be a lot of guys who actually want to better society, that are ready to actually take full responsibility over their masculine energy, because your energy creates your reality. As a man, you have full creative freedom to build your world and your external world as however you want to. And this is really going to be the future. An anima integration is the future.